Hello everybody. A popular discourse for any game with a varied selection of characters is how somebody needs nerfs, somebody else needs buffs, and Don't Starve Together is far from exempt from that. But I'd rather not go into what characters need buffs and which needs nerfs, since that's boring. Instead, what I'm going to be doing is giving you my ideas for a buff and a nerf for every single character in the game. Sure, a lot of the characters don't need a buff, and certainly not a nerf, but I feel like it would be a fun thought exercise. Of course, in my over 1,000 odd hours in this game, I haven't played every character equally, so I'm not qualified to fully talk about all of the survivors. But who cares? These are my opinions, let me know how terrible or wonderful they are in the comments, along with your ideas too. Anyway, we've waffled on for long enough, let's start with the character I spent the least time with, Wanda. Yep, we're doing it in this order today. Wanda is considered a stronger character to a lot of people, so buffing her is hard, but that won't stop me. So her buff will be that rewinding time using her ageless watch will rewind the freshness of food in her inventory. A small thematic change that I think would be neat. It would have an upper limit of how much it can freshen up, and probably a limit so you can't just rewind your entire fridge, but what I think would be a nifty little lore-friendly change that won't be too overpowered. Her nerf, however? That alarming clock needs to be clipped a little bit. Yeah, it's hard to get, but the insane amount of damage this thing can pump out at a range that it has, especially when Wanda is old, is ridiculously high, overshadowing literally any other weapon in the game. I'd lower the damage a little bit for now, and maybe let her get it back as planar damage when she gets her skill tree or something. Now it's time for the complete opposite of Wanda, Walter. Oh boy. Right, my buff for this kid would be, you guessed it, his slingshot. Specifically, his ammo economy. See, I'm okay with the slingshot having less DPS than a melee weapon on the account of its range, but boy howdy does it cost way too much stone or anything to fire this thing for any period of time. So I feel like you should either get way more ammo per craft by a factor of double or even triple, or make it so ammo has a chance to be recovered after it impacts an enemy. That Island Adventures Hurricane video I did with Walter felt great because of how cheap and easy they made limestone rounds to get. Take notes, Clay. His nerf though? Get rid of his sanity gain from trees. He can already regenerate sanity easily with his campfire tales and cheapest chips camping tent, but also has the whole doesn't lose sanity like other characters gimmick, which usually means outside of combat, your sanity isn't dropping ever to begin with, so you don't really need extra ways to restore it, I feel. He should keep the reduced sanity drain from being injured from trees though, however. Wurt, my main by a large margin. Her buff is going to be an odd one. Fashion melons equipped by Wurt are not wetness capped. Getting wet outside of using balloons and jumping off boats continually is tedious when using her amphibious branch on her skill tree, so I feel like letting her use the fashion melon as a reliable way of gaining and retaining maximum moisture would be cool and make the item actually useful. Because of, in case you don't know, the fashion melon will only increase your wetness up to 33%. As for her nerf, I think she should lose her increased hunger gain from vegetables. It kinda makes her downside of being a vegetarian pointless, since the difficulty of having a veggie-only diet is made completely moot by buffing vegetables lower than average food gain. I mean, Wickford's dietary restriction doesn't make her get more food from meat, so why should Wurt get more food from veggies? Wartox is up next. Got a fun little thematic one for this goat guy. His buff should be a double naughtiness gain from innocent kills. Come on, this guy is literally the OG prankster / Krampus hater, and I think it just fits too well. You could argue that this is a downside, but more Krampus sacks chances beg to differ. His nerf is going to be another equally thematic one. Any held creatures such as butterflies and rabbits will die at 4 times the speed of normal. Wartox mentions how his touch is enough to drain the life from any creature, but in game, no such thing exists. This also means that you'll have to be careful with using live animals in your inventory as extra soul storage. Sure, you could put them in a chest, but that'll be tedious during boss fights. Also, be quick when making your bee farms and prestidigitators. Winona, a brand new favourite of mine thanks to her insight tree. My buff for her involves it too. I think the rose-coloured glasses from her shadow skill should be able to make vine bridges in the caves. You can do these over the water, but in the caves, no dice. I'm pretty sure they don't work in the caves due to how they'll interact with void walking, but just make it punch you off the bridge towards lands if it breaks with you on it if they want to keep void walking in. and her nerf will be for the other side of the insight tree. I think her Portasol should not have infinite teleport range. I used these things for a long time, and by gosh did it hurt to even consider not using it. Being able to easily cross the entire map for little to no cost is a bit too powerful. Give it decent range, but not unlimited range. Kinda like how it functioned in Solo Don't Starve. Wormwood's up now, Tig's favourite as you all know. But you know what? Why don't we bring the expert themselves in for this one? Take it away, Tig.
Hello. Their buff should be better watering. Whatever he uses, a watering can or possibly a waterfall can, he should be able to either instantly set the tile to its maximum hydration, or maybe water 4 tiles at once in a 2x2 radius. It'll speed up his watering even more, and watering is usually a massive time sink. As for his nerf, here's a simple little one. When holding logs or boards, he loses sanity over time relevant to the amount he's holding. This will also apply to any logs laying on the floor nearby. They're literally the corpses of his brothers. They're screaming in his face. He does not like that. Please, help him.
Thanks, Tig. Super appreciated. Warley. Probably one of the most balanced characters in the game at the moment. But alas, time to buff and nerf you. I got a whole video idea for insight perks for him, but for now I'll suggest that food and seasoning buffs should work twice as long for Warley. Usually it's way better to use his food buff and seasoning on anybody except Warley, but this little change would make it slightly more desirable to self-buff. Maybe even make it so his food buffs have increased effect as well, like garlic powder giving even more damage reduction when applied to himself. But for his nerf, gosh, he really doesn't need one, but okay. Let's make it so he slowly starts to lose sanity if his hunger is more than half full, ramping up the more hungry he gets. An odd one? Sure. Let me know how you'd nerf this guy if you were forced at gunpoint. Time for my old main now, Webber. Their buff will be in the form of his switcher-doodles, specifically by letting them affect multiple spiders at once in an area. Currently they only affect one, and have a pretty steep cost for ones like Spider Warriors, who you can get for free from any big den. Maybe give the switcher-doodles multiple uses, or make it so they craft in batches instead. But their nerf? If I had to pick something, I'll remove the ability to sleep in spider dens. Webber is already one of the best characters in the game at making tents, sorry Walter, thanks to his silk production. I think giving him free, unlimited tents all over the map is a bit overkill. Again, these ain't changes I actually want, blame the video idea forcing me to kneecap characters that already have shattered knees. But a character with strong knees? Wigfrid. Her buff? Oh my gosh, please do anything to her alignment perks. They literally do the exact same thing, but flipped side, and the thing they actually do is just a slight increase in alignment damage. Please, just let her like Shadow Song summon tentacles or shadow fighters, and her Lunar Song create meteors to pepper the battlefield in frozen fire. Her insight perks are such a wasted opportunity, sadly. Her punishment for that is a nerf. And the nerf she's getting is that she doesn't need her revival song, The Warrior's Reprise. Just seems a bit odd to give her a literal free way of reviving her allies. Cool, but something I could see her living without. Honestly, I don't want to touch her kit too much, since her role as a safe, almost newbie-friendly fighter is one the game benefits from. And that's all of the DLC characters. Time now for the original 9. I hope you've been enjoying this video so far. Let me know if you have been. Thank you all so much for your continued support recently. You're all amazing. But do you know who else is amazing? Maxwell. Did you see what I did there? Because it's stage name? His buff is going to be that his dapperness is back from Solo Don't Starve. In DST he only gets like 6 sanity a minute, but in Solo he got a whopping 20. I'd say give him it back. Sure, this could be seen as a nerf to his nightmare fuel farming, but there's better ways to do that with bunny men and rabbit farms. Also, you could argue his no sanity drain from Shadow Gear makes up for this change to dapperness in DST. And you would be right. Anyway, for his nerf, this old guy is getting attacked on sight by Gestalts. Like, no matter what. He is a literal embodiment of the shadows, so I think that any lunar aligned creature, physical or not, should have increased aggro and possibly even damage towards Maxwell due to his shadowy presence. Basically, be careful around greater Gestalts or they'll snap him in half. Wes! Do I really have to buff and nerf this guy? My buff for him would be to remove his slower rate of wood chopping and mining because it doesn't make him any harder, just boring. And his nerf? This video is a terrible idea, huh? When he eats a fresh fruit crepe, it squirts onto the floor and he only gets 10 hunger from it. Useless? Yes. Canon? Absolutely. A nerf? Technically. Next on the chopping block is Woodie. His buff is one I wanted before his insight tree. He should be able to eat items relative to his current wear form to gain small amounts of HP. So as a beaver, it would be logs, goose, it should be seeds, and moose, it can be grass. A simple way to regain HP in forms that don't have conventional HP restoring means. Nothing groundbreaking, but good in a pinch. Also, in turn, this would allow him to eat food off the ground as well, so your teammates can leave healing items on the ground for you, or yourself if you think ahead of time. But for his nerf? How about a huge sanity drain from birds? Anything bird related would have a negative sanity aura, be it on the ground, in a cage, in his inventory. Woodie hates birds, so I'd say it fits. And for monsters that already have a sanity drain aura, like the moose goose and malbatross, double the sanity drain from these. Suffer. Wickerbottom time. I discussed this with my resident Wicker main, Rob, and we think that a reduced sanity drain from reading the same book in quick succession would be a nice buff. So the first read would drain 33 sanity, then the second 25, and the third 18, resetting after reading a different book and after enough time has passed. A good way to reward active book users and not having to slowly build up your bee/tentacle farms. Her nerf is going to be an iffy one. We feel that if she reads her books in any area that has enlightenment, then it should raise her sanity instead of dropping it, and spawning greater gestalts when she reads a book at maximum enlightenment. This is to somewhat remove her unlimited book reading she can do on the Lunar Island and Grotto. Sure, you can still do it if you just enter and exit the biomes, so maybe spawn the shadow/ghost after a certain amount of reads instead. I'm not sure. Let us know what you think. WX-78. I think their buff can be a simple, cute thematic one. They gain sanity depending on the moon's phase. We all know WX is fascinated with Alter, so the more they can see of them, the happy they are. I think the sanity gain should cancel out the sanity loss from night when it's half visible, ramping up linearly to a full moon, where they gain a big amount of sanity gain over time. A small buff, but a thematic one. But their nerf? Let's make it so when on a boat, they lose sanity over time. Look at all of their quotes for anything boat related. You think this robot is going to be happy in any form when floating on a death circle? Absolutely not. Also, I'm not just saying this because of the ocean video I did last year, totally. Gotta revisit that one soon, don't I? As for Wendy, her buff is going to be a way to gain morning glory outside of the silly little ghost herding minigame. Maybe slowly over time from the cistern, or heck, the ability for her to even build her own graves nearby so your base locations ain't restricted to graveyards. Either or. Now her nerf on the other hand is going to be a tricky one. I think her damage bonus from fighting enemies beset by Abigail should be lowered. In case you don't know, Wendy does 25% less damage. However, when attacking enemies that Abigail is also attacking, that 25% less becomes 15% more. It kinda makes her downside of less physical damage pointless, I say. And one she can live without thanks to Abby doing most of the fighting. Maybe add a new elixir that gives Abby more damage weaknesses to enemies to make up for it. I don't know. Wolfgang, the hot topic for balance. Hard to buff this guy since he's already yoked, but sure. Let him throw heavy carryables like statues and boulders when mighty as a cool, ranged, heavy damage dealing AoE attack. I just think it would be a sight to behold personally. You thought I was going to give him his speed back. You wish. His nerf is going to be more hunger loss when mighty, just like old times. Wolfgang practically has zero downsides nowadays, and his hunger drain when working out isn't enough to make an impact, so he's either losing way more when mighty or more hunger when working out. Any will do. He can just eat roast potatoes anyway. Willow's buff is going to be a simple one. Let her gain embers from birds again. If warthooks can gain souls from butterflies and birds, then let Willow get them from birds at the very least. I know it's to avoid her being able to get free food from birds since her ignite would refund the embers spent, but like, Walter? Winona? They can both kill birds practically for free. Plus, I just want the cool synergy with Wicker's Birds of the World and Combustion, please. And her nerf shall be... Actually, she's kind of well balanced now I think about it. However, for the sake of the video, how about increasing her sanity drain multiplier? She currently loses it 10% faster than other survivors from most sources, but how about 20%? She's not the most sane girly out there next to Wickford, and we both know they're roommates. And lastly, everybody's favourite fail guy scientist, Wilson. Your buff is going to be slower food storage for food in your beard. Absolutely gross, but it gives those food slots an extra use besides simple storage. Just don't go sharing the food with other survivors, please. And the final nerf of the video? No clue. Out of all the characters besides Wes, this guy needs it the least. But how about no sanity gain from prototyping? Because he's a know-it-all. I have no idea. How about you guys give me your best unnecessary Wilson nerf in the comments right now? Oh my gosh, Wonkey, could you not do that again? Right, sure, let's buff you, you little weirdo. Their buff is poop. Let them produce poop over time like the other monkeys can. Maybe let them throw it too, like Wilbur from Shipwrecked. A funny monkey moment. And your nerf? Any non-banana related food gives you less hunger, like 25% or something. Anyway, can I end the video now, please? So that's a list of buffs and nerfs for every single survivor in Don't Starve Together. Even the ones that absolutely don't need either. It was a fun thought exercise. Let me know any ideas you have, or how terribly amazing mine were. Take care everybody and have a wonderful day. Bye bye.